So let's talk about fear. Fear is inherently human and natural. It's part of our experience, but it has, for many of us, it's gotten away from us to the degree that it can be something that we don't want to feel, and conversely, it's something that we can get trapped in. And it's this not wanting to feel it that can compound the fear and make it hard to be in our bodies or be in the moment. We can, in essence, be running from fear. We can, with any emotion within us, become really averse to it. And fear is one of the main ones that we become averse to. And that makes sense because it's scary and it's hard to be with fear. But when we're averse to it, it tends to compound and become stronger. And we can start squirming and desperately want to cover up that fear. And that makes perfect sense because it's hard to experience fear. And we have a lot of ways that we cover up fear, as we all know. Our phones, shopping, ice cream, wine, drugs, sex, you name it. There's a billion of them. And all of those things can very much be an escape, a way that we distract ourselves. And it makes sense that we want to distract ourselves, especially if that fear is old fear and it's fear that we haven't found a way to work with. And so I'm hoping today some of what I share may help you work with that fear and find greater peace with it, for it's being okay with and being at peace with, and by that I mean allowing into our experience not only fear, but every emotion and every experience. And the greater that we have the ability to do that, the more we're going to live in a state of wholeness and a state of peace. And we're going to live much more in the present moment. For when we're resisting and covering up something like fear, we're ultimately resisting life. And when we resist life, when we resist anything, we suffer. The Buddha said, all unhappiness arises from a non-acceptance of what is. And if you find a $20 bill on the sidewalk, for example, there's probably not a lot of resistance to that. Or if someone says, hey, I want to take you out to lunch, or if you win the lottery, or, all these things that we want. I'm saying this because it's this disparity between wanting experiences and not wanting them that leaves us hung up, that leaves us in a state of craving and aversion. And it's in extricating ourselves from that state of craving and aversion that we can find true peace. And it's in the act of embracing whatever's arising, whether it's something we want or don't want, by taking little baby steps towards doing that, by allowing life to arise within us with all these uncomfortable emotions, or in this external world that we reside as well. The greater our acceptance, the greater our inner peace. So, specifically talking about fear, it's a big one because it doesn't feel good. And it creates a lot of experience in our body that can be overwhelming. And the first thing we have to do is slow down, because as you know, when we experience fear, things can get really sped up. We can get into our heads and we can start thinking and start squirming and unconsciously covering up that fear with things that may not ultimately be serving us. They may serve the purpose of covering up the fear, like if we run to the fridge and grab that pint of ice cream or whatever it is. It works, but it's only a temporary fix because the fear doesn't go away. And the pleasure of the ice cream, for example, doesn't last. And then we can feel guilty on top of it and sugar crashed as well if we eat too much. So the main thing to begin with when we feel fear is to slow down and realize that we are in control. Even though the fear can be so big and we feel it and then we're gone, we're not present, we shut down, we cover up or we speed up or we distract ourselves. And so the first thing is to slow down, and it takes great courage to acknowledge that there's fear in us, even though we know it, even though we feel it, and for many of us, it can be a very frequent visitor, and that's okay. And it's important as we slow down to recognize how we greet that visitor. Do we push that visitor away? Do we never open the door to fear? And even though it's knocking, and it seems like it's knocking so loud sometimes that it's all we feel, and it's in the act of slowing down that we can find power. We can reclaim a sense of power in the face of fear and other challenging emotions. And the reason is because when we slow down, we are consciously choosing to do something perhaps different than we have in the past in the face of fear and anxiety. So when we slow down, we're taking a conscious choice in the face of these old patterns that often make us tighten our body, make us go into thought, and make us run to the fridge or the phone or the liquor cabinet, or, humans, we have lots of ways to make ourselves feel good. And it isn't about feeling bad, but it's about saying, okay, I need to get a handle on this because I want to feel good authentically. I don't want to just feel good temporarily. And so when we slow down and we say, I'm feeling fear, when we simply just say, I'm feeling fear, and we notice how the mind wants to stir up, how the body wants to tighten, how these old patterns, it can be something as simple as just, whenever we feel fear, busying ourselves, cleaning the house. And that's fine. Not all of these ways we cover up fear are inherently bad or destructive in whatever way. But on this spiritual path, we have to see fear as an opportunity. And we have to see it as an opportunity to reclaim our wholeness. And it's in reclaiming our wholeness that we can find true peace. And we can't find it when we're running from ourselves, when we're running from life, from the reality of whatever's arising in any moment. And so when we slow down, when we say, okay, I'm just going to relax here a little bit, in the face of this storm, we make a very profound and courageous choice to not be having that fear control us. We can start to reclaim, get our hands back on the wheel, because we know when we're in a state of fear, we can be lost. And it's like we don't have any grounding, we don't have any power. And so by slowing down, when we notice fear, it's the first step we can take to reclaim our power and not be chased around by the fear. And once we've slowed down, then we come into the body and the breath. We anchor ourselves